everyone, Kelly here, and today I wanted to continue my series of videos about series. So I will link down the playlist below. I've done videos about series that I need to finish and series that I want to start. And today is the most controversial one because today is the series that I have DNF'd and have no intention on finishing. And I have been keeping all of these videos to only 10 series because I didn't want them to be too long, but I'm making the exception with this video because I had 12, and so I think I'll be fine to add 2 more. And the first few are just duologies or companions, so they'll go by quick. And the first one is the Eastology by Edith Patou. I loved East. I thought it was really good. But then West, I think, was written like 10 years later or a lot later, and I've heard a lot of people that liked East did not think West was necessary or a good book. So I have no intention of continuing. I think East stands alone as itself, which it was published as a standalone, so I just don't see any reason to read the second book. But I would recommend this one. It's basically a retelling of a folktale called East of the Sun, West of the Moon, I believe, and it kind of has a Beauty and the Beast type of vibe. And there's a polar bear, and so it's just fun. So I would suggest this one, but I will not be reading the second book. And all the other ones, I do not own any of the books because I didn't like them, so I got rid of them if I had them. And the next one is the Stargirl duology by Jerry Spinelli. I read Stargirl back in March. I didn't really like it. It just was boring to me, and it seemed like it could be a standalone, so if I didn't really like it and it seemed to stand alone, I don't see any reason to read the next book, which I think is called Love Stargirl, so I will not be reading that book. And then the last, what is duology or companion novel is Leah on the Offbeat, which is the second book, and I don't know what they're calling this, Simon universe. So I loved Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. And then she made a companion novel called Leah on the Offbeat that's starring Simon's friend Leah. Well, in the first book, I did not enjoy Leah's character. I felt like she was really snarky and mean. And I've heard that, that's kind of the theme of Leah on the Offbeat. And so I just don't think I would enjoy it. And I don't want to give a bad taste in my mouth to Simon. So I'm just not going to read that book. No. We don't write in books. A bear, yeah. And the first one is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I read the first 2 books in this series, and then I got halfway through Heir of Fire, and I kept putting it down. I think I tried to read it. I got it out from the library at least 3 times, and I kept trying to read it. I even switched to ebook, and I just couldn't make myself finish it, so I am done with that series. It wasn't going in a direction that I would be interested in anyways, because I heard it was gonna kind of go into more of a, not necessarily abusive relationship, but a weird relationship but a relationship that might have some negative issues to it, and it wasn't really a relationship I cared about or wanted to happen, so I just figured why even continue if I couldn't even get through the 3rd book, so that one is for sure DNF'd. And then I have a series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket, and I know this is a well-beloved middle grade or young reader series. A lot of people read this in their childhood. I read the first book last year or 2 years ago, and I just did not like it at all. I think part of it is that being an adoptive parent, watching all these things happen to these kids that, they're basically adopted by Lemony Snicket, and he's horrible to them because he has to take them in, and it just was really hard for me to read. I did not enjoy it whatsoever. I just didn't I think you have to get the humor, get the fact that everything's going wrong and that's supposed to be funny, but I just did not have a good time reading it, so I'm not going to spend the time reading 10 books in this series. Just not gonna do it. The next one is one of the only series you might be able to convince me to continue, and that's the Winter Night Trilogy by Catherine Arden. I read The Bear and the Nightingale several months ago, and it just wasn't my style. I can see why other people like it with the Russian folklore and the very environmental and all that, but it just was I don't know, the writing just didn't capture me. It took me forever to finish that book, and I just don't think I want to make myself read the next 2 books, but I guess I could be convinced to at least try the second book, but I have no intention at this point in continuing unless I'm like really like convinced. And the next is a series I definitely won't be continuing, which is City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. I think this series probably has a name to it, but I don't know what it is. But this was a middle grade book about a girl who could talk to ghosts, and her parents are ghost hunters. And I just thought this was frankly extremely boring and uninteresting. And so I have no desire to continue the series. It just wasn't the series for me. I like middle grade novels, and this one just didn't have much substance to it, in my opinion. Maybe it'll get better as it goes, but at this point, no, I have no interest whatsoever. Next, we have Wayfarer Trilogy, which is a young adult series by Robin LaFavors. She also has, I think, a spin-off series with the same world and some of the same characters. And this is about basically like assassin nuns who they're nuns that are part of a convent for the god of death, I believe. I don't know. I just read these not that long ago, so I should know, but I just didn't care that much. They're kind of historical fiction feeling, and I don't know. They were okay. I read the first two. I read Grave Mercy, and I don't even remember what the second one's called. And I liked them okay. Like, they were probably about 3 stars. But I've heard a lot of people say they didn't really like the third one, and I have like nothing like really pulling me to read the third one. I just don't care. I had enough fun reading them, but I have no like desire to finish off the series. The next one might be one that people will be a little upset about, but I am not going to continue on into All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han. I read the first book. I started the second book, got about 30% in, and I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't like the drama. I didn't see the point. I felt like the first book could have just been a contemporary on its own, could have finished out a little bit better. Like, I didn't think, like, the ending was left open on purpose so she can make a series, but it could have been finished off and just been a standalone, and I would have been fine with that, happy with that. But I don't really want to see a long drawn out drama about this couple, and if it's going to be a love triangle and blah, 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 and I don't know. It just did not appeal to me whatsoever. So I DNF that book and will not be continuing the series, though I would watch the movies if they come out because I really liked the first movie. The next is a middle grade series called the Septimus Heap series, and there's a ton of books in the series. I don't know, like 7 books maybe. And this is by Angie Sage. I read Septimus Heap. I read the first book, I think it's called Magic, last year, and I just didn't like it. It took me a long time to get through it. Like, it is a thick book. It's probably close to 500 pages, but with a middle grade novel, even though they're big, it's usually easy to get through. Well, that one was kind of torture. I kind of was like splitting time between the book, the ebook, the audiobook. Finally made it through. I just felt like she was adding characters constantly, but not really tying them together. And I've heard that they do kind of like tie in the whole series, but I'm not going to remember them come later books if I'm not really like getting invested in these characters in this first book. So I just have no desire to continue the series at all. The next one is Lifelike by Jay Kristoff. I read Lifelike, which is the first book, a few months ago, and I just didn't like the style. This is a futuristic book, and he has a lot of slang from the future and stuff like that, so it was kind of hard to like follow along the writing. I thought it ended good, but I just don't think I want to push through another book of that writing style. I just don't really care that much. I've heard some people say the second book isn't as good, so I'm just not going to continue. And then the last one is probably the one that people are going to be the most like upset about, and that is the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers. The first book is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I read this, I think, last month, and I just didn't love it the way other people love it. I thought it was fine. I gave it 3.5 stars. But the series is companion novels, and if it was like a true series that was just following that same group of people, I might have continued, but I feel like I'm satisfied with that as a standalone, and I have no desire to do companion novels and follow other characters. I just don't think her style of writing is quite works for me. Like, I understand why other people like it. They like the characterization and all that stuff, but the plot was very like serial. Like, kind of like a TV show where it was split up a lot into episodic. That's what I meant, into episodes. It was very episodic. It just wasn't my style, and I'm not going to continue it. So those are all the series that I have DNF'd and do not plan on ever finishing. Like I said, there's probably only one that you can convince me to finish is The Bear and the Nightingale. So if you want to convince me, go ahead. And if not, you can leave a comment and I'd love to talk to you. I'll see you next time. Bye.